Thank you. I'd like to call to order today's meeting on February 23rd, 2026 for Brattleboro Housing Partnerships, um, virtual, hybrid. And the first order of business, I'd like to review um, minutes from the January 5th, 2026 regular meeting. Any questions?
I was wondering, do we need to approve the other meetings after that we met with this? 'Cause we did meet, I think, once or twice.
I don't think so. Um,
What meetings are you talking about, Gary?
Well,
yeah.
where we had met to prior before that for approvals to some other meetings after the meeting that we had from this one, January 5th. Didn't we meet for something else recently? If I'm not mistaken, no. I could be wrong. For approval.
This board has not met since January 5th.
Okay.
May I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion.
A second. I
All in favor?
second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Um, all right, now's the time for resident and public participation. Um, if anyone is here and would like to speak, please do so.
Chairwoman?
Hi, AJ, would you like to say anything?
Yes, it's an honor to finally take part in the Board of Commissioners meeting as a full member of the Resident Advisory and Communications Committee, member for Hayes Court, honor to join you all again virtually. And if on the court, I was wondering if there's anything the RA, the Resident Advisory Communications Committee, can do to help out with the people with the fire at Selma Elliott.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you are representing the resident advisory committee, and you're wondering if there's anything that that committee can do to help out the Samuel Eliot apartments. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
correct.
Christine, is there anything that that advisory can do to help?
Well, thank you so much, AJ. I really appreciate it. At this point, I'm about to give an update on the situation. And I can. Do you mind muting for 1 second, just so I don't get that feedback? Yeah, perfect. So we're in the I'll go over where we are in the rehab of the building and also where residents are. But at this point, we are moving residents back in. People have extensive needs in terms of needing support around unpacking. So we were able to move everybody in, all of their personal items in and out and then back in. However, they do need considerable amount of support over long term. So not like a 2 hour stint, but like hours and hours and hours of really helping them to unpack items, figure out where they need to go. And this can be really overwhelming for folks. So we found that like maybe short, maybe an hour or two here or there. So if there are volunteers who think that that would be something that they would be good at or they would like to support, you could certainly let us know and we can connect you to the wellness and services team. We are hiring people to do that who are, we have sort of hired trained people. We found that volunteers, sometimes it's a hard thing for volunteers to do based on some of the medical and maybe other challenges that some of our residents have. But certainly if there are residents who think that that's something they would be interested in or be good at, we'd be more than welcome to have that help.
Christine, I can help. I know my neighbor will need help. And there's another woman on the second floor that I would feel comfortable, and I think she'd feel comfortable with me. I mean, it wouldn't, it'd be like a little at a time, like say an hour.
Yeah.
But I know there's two that I could definitely help.
Yeah. So if that's something that the Resident Advisory Communication Committee wants to sort of spearhead to at least find out, like maybe putting out information to residents and seeing who would be interested, then we could use that list and like maybe also what their availability is. Then we could use that list to have the services manager oversee, connect you to those residents. We could ask the residents if they feel comfortable with that and then have them connect with you directly. Does that sound good, AJ?
That sounds terrific, Christine.
Okay, great. Is there anything else that you're thinking that that group might want to provide?
Well, it's really up to you guys. I don't know what else we could do. What if there's anything that that us and the Board of Commissioners can work together on? We can work on things together.
Okay. Well, I think that's a really good place to start. So I think getting an understanding of who would be able to do that and what their availability is, and then we could review it with residents to see if they feel comfortable, and they would reach out directly to you if that's the case. We can make that connection. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Christine. Thank you to the Board of Commissioners as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Christine. That's a great idea. All right. Um, Next, just moving forward, if there's any other comments, we just like to hold that after each section. So that way we can go through our agenda. Okay. So next is staff reports. We have the executive director's report. Would you like to speak on anything on that
Sure.
first?
So I'll start with just some basic things that have been going on. So I apologize. This was sent out on February 6th, so it was going back a little bit because I was on vacation um, between the 11th and the 18th. So I will give you an update on Sam Elliott at the end. We have finished. We are in the middle of our year-end tax credit audits, so we need to have those completed by the end of March. We have finished our year-end financials, and so those have been submitted, and we're hoping that we'll have those audits completed on time to submit to our funders. Our fiscal year audit, which you found in our packet, has been completed. That was for fiscal year 2024, 2025. It came back with no findings, so that's very positive. Um, we also are in the process of drafting a budget. We have sent all of our information to James and I haven't received it back from him yet. So as soon as I get a draft budget, I will submit to you. You'll see that in your packet, I also put together all of the increases for our operating cost adjustment factors, the OCAF, for the RAD programs, which will increase the rent for our RAD properties. These are the amounts that HUD is allocated that we're able to increase to, and I'll share a little bit more of that when we get to that in our packet. So for the Sam Elliott apartments, I'll just start off by saying I have been so incredibly impressed with the work that our staff has done. I I I honestly don't know how we could have done this in any way without just the amazing people we have. We have a really, really great crew of people. Keegan Ruffalo, who is our maintenance lead at this point, under David Dearborn, has really taken the lead on this. And he has been incredibly organized and compassionate and just so on top of this. His skills have been, he has incredible organization skills, incredible follow-up. He really thinks really big picture, but also can get into the minutia. He's excellent. Like, we're so lucky to have him on board. He has been a huge help for David. David was on a medical leave for a little bit and is back, but I think he just feels really supported right now by Keegan. And that has been wonderful. I will also say the wellness and services team have just gone above and beyond any of our expectations. Especially Lorelei Morissette. She's really organized the group and just stayed on top of all of the pieces that have been really, really complicated, including, transportation for people while they're in hotels, people getting medications, people getting food, animals, having to manage the hotels when situations come up that are not, that could have, could, result in people losing their hotel room, just so many things. And so they have just done an amazing job. So of the 18 households that were displaced, all but 6 have returned. We moved 4 households last week. 3 more are scheduled for this week, and then we have 2 that will remain the following week. And there's 1 that we do not think is returning. So at this point, we have 5 households that we believe will be returning, and 2 of them will be, 3 of them will be this week, and 2 next week. So, so I think that, like, outside of drying the whole building and doing all the initial repairs, we had to remove regulated materials. Those were all removed. We had a contractor named Alloy who came from Western Mass, and they did a really great job. We also had another company called Atlas, which was certified their work and tested all of their work on a daily basis. So those 2 contractors worked out really, really well. As we go forward, the fire department has to approve all the reoccupancy, and they have just been really easy to work with by accommodating our schedules and coming in as soon as possible after we have the apartments completed to do their inspections. We had to replace all of the ceiling tiles on that side of the building, as well as all the common areas. That has been completed. We also had to order carpeting tiles for that side of the building, and that has been ordered. Those will not be in until later in the month of March. That will require us to close down each floor for part of the day. And so it's going to take some considerable organization to make sure that residents are aware and their homemakers and all the people that visit them and all of the things and animals and all that stuff is taken care of. So we're working on that. We are replacing the entire fire panel. So right now it's in place and it has been, we've done major repairs to it. However, the whole fire panel needs to be replaced because as we update it, it's not compatible for the rest of the building. And this is a huge undertaking and cost. The good news is it sounds like our insurance is going to cover the whole thing, and it's something that we really needed to do regardless. So that's great. However, it is a really extensive job, and it will require the whole building to have new sensors, and we'll be doing work throughout the whole building throughout the whole spring through June to get this completed. But the good news is that once it's done, it will be like the system that is required now by the state. We were grandfathered in, so we didn't have to update it, but now that we're doing this work, we are updating it. And so that's actually really good news. So far, the total costs that we've spent as of the 14th, which was when the last time we pulled all the costs together. Claire was away on vacation last week, so she's doing that now. We'll have another number. But as of the 14th, we had already spent $250,016. And we've been reimbursed so far for $96,686. A few items that we know are not going to be reimbursed are things like unpacking, like hiring people to unpack, laundry that we did, transportation, like having that van that we had to rent, food related costs, Those are sort of some of the items that we're not going to be able to be reimbursed for. We're also trying to find out, we have really added staff to do a lot of the work. And while the insurance company will pay for overtime related, they're not paying for regular work. So we're trying to talk to them about, that was something that we just found out today. So we're trying to talk to them about, the reason we put in these extra staff to do this work was really to expedite it, because we were finding that the contractors just weren't able to do it fast enough. We also need to, so we have movers that really can only move on the weekend. It's been hard getting movers. So we have a really great mover, but they really can only do it on the weekends. And so all of the timing has to be really very on top. We have to be on top of the timing. And so that's why we've had a lot of our staff doing a lot of this work. So I think that's a conversation with the insurance company to find out how we can allocate those times, because I think that's really important. We've been doing a lot of deferred maintenance. I mean, we've had a lot of deferred maintenance add up because of this. And so, I really want to make sure that we are reimbursed for that. Any questions, comments?
Since I went through this, may I
Of course.
say, okay, I was one of the displaced persons. And this wasn't my second rodeo, and I noticed the difference. I have nothing, nothing but the best for the Brattleboro Fire Department, for the mutual aid that responded, for the police department. And the police department does have an HCRS member because some of these people were really traumatized. They didn't want to leave, but everybody was moved with no problem after they talked to them. And Windham County Humane Society also, if we had pets, they gave us food. And the motels were nice, but of course it was traumatic. But they said, "Oh, get enough clothes for 3 days." Well, that was, I was out 18. But we have a fire chief. He wanted to make sure that everything that had been moist, had been wet. And mine was just water had come down the hall on the floor and under my baseboard in the kitchen. And no way he was going to make sure everything was dry to make sure there's no mold. So, housing, like I say, they would come for a few weeks with meals. Uh, they gave us a card for meals. As Christine says, I didn't stop and think about the workers that are coming in now and the staff that is doing great jobs, and even the people that hired, like Alloy, worked right along. So I have nothing but praise for our fire department, our first responders, because they did need to use the rescue because some with smoke inhalation. But compared to 15 years ago, I think they're the best. Everybody that was involved in it. 18 days was bad enough for me. I was lucky to get back, and there are people it's been almost 2 months. And I can help some people, like I said, help them unpack, because there's some people that will not want people to help them except certain people. So I can do that, but I have nothing but praise for housing, all our first responders, and even the Humane Society to make sure that our pets were fed. I think that's it.
Thanks. Thanks, Pat. And I would really like to one Brattleboro has asked me to write a letter, and, when I ever get a free minute, I swear I'm going to do it, but I am prioritizing this week. My bandwidth has been a little bit light at this point, but I'm getting back into it. But I do think, and we'll get to this later in the agenda, about just sort of some sort of appreciation by the board. We can talk about that later.
Thank you for the update and appreciation to all the staff. I'll look forward to that conversation. And thank you for the residents' flexibility, and everyone needed to exercise patience and just bring their best selves. It really seems like overall, it's well, just thank you to everybody who's working so hard.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. And all of the updates, the thoughtful and comprehensive updates that Christine has given us has been really helpful. Yeah, I just really want to say I appreciate you, Christine, and all of your hard work during this. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Well, we have an amazing staff. We really do.
Mhm.
And, we brought in a couple people extra. We brought in Lisa Whitney, which was a huge help. She really has done a lot for everything from delivering meals for Meals on Wheels to like everything, to helping out Lorelai, and she's been great. So I do think we've had a lot of extra support. So that's been really helpful. But the staff has just done a great job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks. And thank you for the board. You guys have been really supportive, and that's been a huge help as well. So thank you.
Yeah, if there's anything else that we can do, more than willing.
Yeah. We'll let you know.
All right. Are we ready to move on to the property manager report?
Sure.
Okay. Any questions or comments? No?
I'll just say the rent increase, the rent percentages are going up still. And so that's great to see. I think we've turned a corner from COVID. It took a long time, but we're getting there. So it's been much better.
Great. Thank you. Um, and the annual services report by Matthew Attesi, um, very comprehensive and lots of really great information here. Any questions that came up while reviewing that? Any comments?
Great work. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for this thoughtful presentation as well.
I like that it tells the story in the context of the annual report, and like this bridges out of poverty, providing that focus, that lens. And so it was like really accessible and gave information and told the story in a really digestible way. So I appreciated that.
I agree. As well as the services team's report, all the graphs was just really easy to understand and see the progress. Um, and the, of course, the leap connections I've always enjoyed reading. So thank you to the team for that. Okay. So next is the financial review. And uh the well, we have this letter from CBIS CPAs and the fiscal audit. Um, any questions or comments? Anything needed to be added from Christine?
I don't think so. I think I feel like it's pretty straightforward. They completed the audit. They, you know, we, um, there were no problems with our internal controls. It's a clean audit. I don't think there's that much else to say other than, they documented everything. We filed it with HUD, all of the pieces. And so I think it's good, it's good news.
Thank you. I feel like that's one of the board's main responsibilities is to make sure this gets done properly. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right. So the financial statements, another um end of the year report. Um, I have nothing to add on this, but it was very good to read through and fully understand all of this year's. We've had a lot we've had a big year. A lot go on this year.
Yeah.
Um, Out of all the years that I've been on the board, it's been the most unexpected things that's been happening, at least on my tenure. Christine, I don't know if you agree, but
I do. It's kept us on our toes. We've
you
gotten
sure
through a lot
did.
of hard things. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of really positive things. We've seen some real completion of some programming. I think the board should be proud of some of the work that we've gotten done in terms of safety initiatives and, more cameras on the properties. And, I think, we're in our third year of the Sash for All program. We've gotten funding again for FSS and for the Ross grant, which are really big grants from HUD. So I do think there's been a lot of really positive things, but you're right. I think in terms of hard work, I think I think it's safe to say it's been a tough one for sure. But we've gotten so much done in terms of Melrose. It's really amazing how close we are to getting this finished. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, been doing a lot of hard work.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay. Um, that includes the December 2025 comparable. Um, any questions or comments about that? No. Check listings and expenses over 10,000. Okay. Check signing assignments. We have Vice Chair Wright for March and Commissioner Green for April. May we assign May, please? Commissioner Walker has signed up for May. Great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next section is Housing Voucher Program and reviewing the annual HUD Operating Cost Adjustment Factor, OCAF, as mentioned previously in Christine's report. So we do have to make a motion for this. Is there any questions or comments before we are ready to make a motion?
So I'm happy to help explain this at all if anybody has a hard time understanding what it means.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. So, our HUD rents are based on, our HUD rents for the RAD program. So that includes the Samuel Elliott Apartments, Moore Court, Ledgewood, and Hayes Court. Are set when we converted to RAD, they were set to a certain amount. And every year, HUD allows us to increase those by a certain percentage. Now, during the pandemic, because we were new to RAD and during the pandemic, and to be honest, like we were still figuring out the program, we sort of delayed some of the increases for a few years. And then so the board has, over the last few years, has caught up on those. And so what this means is that the rents are, if we increase the rent, it doesn't necessarily mean that the rent of the individual renter will go up. In most cases, it actually means it won't go up because it really just means that our HAP payment will go up. Our housing assistance payment will go up. So right now, for a one-bedroom apartment at Samuel Elliott Apartments, we receive $854 per rent for each apartment. Now that includes heat, hot water, electricity, the electricity costs. It includes snow removal, all the things, repairs, all the things. And so if you note that that's a lot lower than what our rental costs are in our Section 8 program. So our Section 8 program is much higher, but we can't we can't raise it to the same number as the Section 8 program. We can only raise it to what HUD allows us to raise it. So they're really low at this point. And that's why I think we see so many budgetary issues, right? We're struggling financially because we only get this much money to manage these apartments. And so every year we're allowed a certain percentage to increase the rent. And so of all of the households, which it comes out to about 200 households, of all those households, when I asked Courtney how many people right now were at the full rent, meaning that their income is more than 30% of the adjusted rent, there's 12 households. So out of the 200 households, 12 at this point in time will have an increase. So they'll pay more in rent. And that means that they have more income than what the 30% is. And so everybody else is their 30% is less than what the rent is. And so for right now, each housing site has a different date of when we can complete this. And so if you remember in the past years, we did them all at once. We did them all starting on April 1st. But the reason we did that, but we had a couple of the properties that were behind, so we were only able to increase it to the previous year. So this year we've decided that we want to do it on their anniversary date, but I wanted the board to approve it now so that we don't have to keep coming back and approve it. The only thing that could potentially change would be if the board approves this and then we find out that we just don't have enough funding through HUD to actually get this amount in HAP payment, we might have to bring it back to the board and say that we need to lower it. But at this point, in talking to James, we believe that by rolling it out over the year, we will be able to make sure that we can cover it through our HAP payments. And then also, as we do the recertifications for for Ledgewood Heights and Moore Court, which are due this year, they're doing their third year, that we're going to find that there are going to be more people whose incomes are a little bit higher. And so we'll get less of a HAP payment. Their rent might go up because their rent hasn't changed in 3 years. So if their income goes up there, they might have a little bit more on their end. So right now, as of 4/1, the Sam Elliott Apartments, the 1 bedroom is at $854, and that will go up 5.2% to $898 per apartment. So if you look at the orange tab, that's what the rent is now. And then if you have the 5% increase, it's going to go up to $898, and that's a $44 a month increase. And then the 2 bedroom apartment is at $1045, and it'll go up to $1099, which is a $54 increase. And then you look down at Moore Court and Ledgewood, and they're actually a year behind. And so if we wait to their anniversary date to redo this certification, we can either increase it by the 5.2% of 2025 and 5.2 for 2026. So that would be a 10.4% increase. So that's a significant increase for those. So that's really, so the board has two decisions to make. They have the decision to make, should we increase everybody across the board at least the 5.2%, which I would strongly recommend, because if not, we're really going to be behind, because we need that HAP payment to really offset our costs. And it really doesn't impact the residents outside of those 12 households at this point. However, as we do the recertifications for Moore Court and Ledgewood, we might find that more people's incomes are a lot higher and they may end up paying more in rent, but they're going to pay it more in rent regardless, whether or not we increase this. I can't imagine that we're going to have that many people that are going to hit the market rent, which would be that they would be capped at that amount. Even if we went up to the full 10.2%, that's still a bedroom with everything included for $1,099. And the only people who would pay that amount would be if their income was more than 30% of the adjusted gross income. Have I lost everybody? I'm sorry. It's really weirdly complicated. I apologize.
No, it makes sense, Christine, because I was wondering
Okay.
with that fair market value also. I don't think it just affects house, it affects all renters, the fair market price. Has that gone up or will it go up this year?
So the fair market rent is different. So the fair market rent is what HUD allocates for the Section 8 program. That's
Right.
much higher than what these numbers are. These
Oh,
numbers are lower than that. And so um, this would, if I said that these won't be the fair market rent, these will be the contract rent. So these are the contract rents amount. So I
got
think
it.
if you look at a 5 bedroom apartment, right? A 5 bedroom apartment right now is $1,651 with everything included. Um, that would be the biggest jump. That would go up to 1827
Wow.
for a 5 bedroom apartment. That
Oh,
means that at least
okay.
6 people are living in that house.
Okay,
You know,
well,
that's
that
a,
makes sense.
so I do think, but the majority of our units are 1 and 2 bedroom units, 0, 1 and 2 bedroom units. And we're looking at, for a 2 bedroom unit, the most that's going to be is $1,099. And I know that that seems like a lot, but most people won't be paying $1,099. They'll be paying 30% of their adjusted gross income, which might be a lot less than that. It's just that we'll get the difference in our HAP payment, which we really need to offset our main, just our costs. So if we adjusted these to the full extent. Like if we raise Morport and Ledgewood and if we raise it across the board, we got everybody where there should be right now, which would be everybody, if that would be 10.4% for Ledgewood and Morport and 5.2% for the other two properties. If we did that by the end of the fiscal year, we would raise an additional $100,000 in HAP payment. So it's a significant amount in our budget.
So I'm following along, other than the one piece you said in the very beginning of why we would need to come back and vote to lower it. Could you explain that
Yeah.
again for me? Sorry. I
So
just
because yeah, so it's so when we're doing these estimates, we're basing these estimates on the idea that like we're going to be funded by HUD to cover all of these, which we should be. I mean, HUD should cover this because this is what they're allocating as like the amount that we should be charging for rent. However, if for some reason HUD doesn't, if we don't get the funding that we're anticipating or something changes, we might have to go back because we won't have enough HAP dollars to actually cover it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So when we're doing this, we always have to make sure that our HAP funding is up to date and that we're covering our HAP expenses, and that comes out of our Section 8 budget.
and is voting on it now posing any risk of having to do that in the future? Will we lose any money or
No, I think if you voted on it now, I think it makes sense. This would cover the whole year. This would mean that the board approved that these are what we're going to increase for the whole year. And that way, because there's a little bit of a process on our end, like we don't just like raise the rents one day. We have to give like a 60-day notice, then we have to do a recertification, then we have to do it, we have to send a notice out to the rent, we have to send it's basically like a form that says like this is how much your HAP payment is and this is how much your payment is to residents. And so we have to do all of that and we need 60 days. We also need to update everything in our system, like in our 10 which is a little bit of a job too. And so we have to, it takes a little bit of time. And so I think by doing it now, we know the first one's going to be 4/1. We've already been in the planning of that. Like residents have already gotten their notices. We already know that this is happening. Then as we go forward for the rest of the year, the next one will be in September. So we'll start planning for that in July. you know, then the next one will be in October. We'll start planning for that in August. So, it gives us that lead time. Does that answer your question?
it does?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for explaining it.
Yeah. I think at this point, if the board decides to do this, this is sort of like what our plan is. The only thing that would make us have to come back and have the board reevaluate would be if like James, if we looked at this and we're like, our program, we don't have enough money to cover this. And that's really based on like what HUD will give us, what HUD allocates to us. But At this point, we think that if we roll it out throughout the year, and I think it would have been precarious of us to do it all at once, and that's why I'm saying we roll it out as the year progresses, and that way we can keep evaluating as we go.
That makes sense to me. Any questions or comments?
No, I was going to say that makes absolute sense compared to light of today's climate with no sureties, as we know, in government down in Washington. So let's take advantage of this while we can.
Yeah, I'm in favor. I think with inflation and health insurance costs are going up, everything is we need to take advantage of that, and I think it's still within the program guidelines, and it's fair.
Great. So with that said, may I have a motion to increase RAD contract rents as proposed?
So
The
move.
only, okay, I'll second it.
Okay. Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? None. Okay.
Oh, I think AJ has his hand up.
My question is, what would be the rent increases for Hayes Court for the zero bedroom and the one bedroom?
So for Hayes Court, it would increase for 0 bedroom. It would go from 780 to 820. And then for a 1 bedroom, it would right now it's 854 and it would go to 898. So it's a 5.2% increase. Yeah. And AJ, so that doesn't mean that the rent, that wouldn't mean that like people pay that amount. That means that that's the contracted rent. It doesn't mean that that's what people contribute. They would still pay 30% of their income. It's just that the difference would be that the housing assistance payment would increase.
Yeah, I'm just concerned how that would affect me as well. 'Cause I just moved in November 1st, and I was a little concerned that would affect me as well.
Well, do you pay the full contract rent? Do you pay the full $854?
30% of my income.
Yeah, it won't affect that. If you'll still only pay 30% of your income.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah.
And for that property, it doesn't go into effect until December 1st, 2026.
Yeah. And
That's less to roll
And so
out.
if there are people who pay the full contract rent because their income is more than 30% of, so basically 30% of their income is more than what that rent is, they still would only be capped at that. So if their income was 50% of that rent, they would still only pay that top amount. They wouldn't pay more than that. But right now we have 12 people that that have that.
Okay, thank you very much. I just
Yeah.
want to bring that to.
It's a great question. Yeah. And it is, people get the notices and they get nervous about it, and we do a lot of explaining about it.
Thank you for the question and thank you for the response. Next is the Holoway Drive project-based voucher waiting list. I need a potential motion to confirm opening waiting list for 8 project-based vouchers at Alice Holloway Drive on 2/17/2026.
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, thank you. Next I need another potential motion to confirm prioritizing 3 project-based vouchers to be used for chalet residents to be released to the Alice Holloway Drive property.
I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, great. Thank you. Next is the special projects update, the Melrose redevelopment update, and reviewing timeline. That's the blue sheet. Any questions or comments?
I'll just say one thing. We actually have not submitted our application to the Development Review Board because um, we've identified a potential issue with how close one of the buildings, the new building, we're building one new building, one new apartment that's going to be where our current parking lot is. And so we're realizing that it's too close, that it might be too close to the roadway. And so in the last week, the architects and the the civil engineers have been working on that. And so they've postponed submitting it to the DRB. And so that date is not accurate. So I'll let the board know when we submit the application and what the new date will be.
Great. Thank you.
It's also worth noting on there the bullet number 4 there about Congresswoman Becca Balint's directed spending was granted. And I think you all saw that, but it's very exciting. And so yeah, 1.75 million for the Melrose Terrace redevelopment. And you might think that that would be all that we needed because it's such a huge number, but it's not.
Yeah.
But very exciting and so much work that went into that. So really appreciative of all the skills of the people on the team.
Yeah. And I think now, outside of like all the other things that are really hard with this project, is just the office space we're really more challenged than we thought we would be. And so we'll talk about that. We've been doing a lot of work. We've been looking at a lot of spaces, and I think we're going to go into executive session at the end of this meeting to talk about one of the contracts. But that has been more of a challenge than we had anticipated. We'd been kind of told that there was like a lot of office spaces, but even though there are office spaces, none of them seem to be really really what we need. And so we've had some challenges, but I can give you an update once we go into executive session.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Oh, I'll say one thing also. We had a group of students come down from UVM a couple Saturdays ago, and they met with us here at Melrose, and they saw the flood mitigation project. They learned all about the redevelopment, and they are doing their capstone project on helping communities to do this work, to basically build like you know, some sort of a resource so that other communities can do what we've done. And they were just so interested and excited about what we were doing. It was really fun to spend time with them and to see, these young adults really thinking about the environmental needs of our communities and coming up with like a roadmap for other communities to do what we've done. So I'm excited to see the final project, and I think it's just says a lot about. It was really nice to see all these people, and they all are from other states. Not one of them was from Vermont, but coming back down here from Burlington to learn about us. So it was great.
Was this something that Vermonters knew about? The young students here or around the area might have known about, or was it advertised? Was it, Christine?
No, I think they just learned about it because it was such a big, in the world of flood mitigation, which it's a pretty big deal. The project has won awards, national awards. I think people see it as I think for a housing authority to do something like this is so unique, and it's usually like a municipality. And even then, it's really, really hard to get done. I mean, most towns don't have the bandwidth to do something like this. And so, um, I think that they just learned about it because it's a really big model around the state, and the governor's mentioned it in his address, and it's a pretty big deal. I think I think a lot of people in Brattleboro don't realize like how big of a deal it is, but it is a really big deal. So they learned about it, and they came down and looked at this one, and also they looked at the one that's on Birch Street, and so they're doing the project on both. They're basing it on both of those projects. But one of the real questions to this is like, who is the steward? Like, who should steward this now going forward? Like, we did all this work, but then, like, who should manage this going forward? And I know I've said for a long time that I really feel like we should present this to the town to manage, but I do think, it's a big ask right now and everything that's going on with the town. So,
Mhm.
but I think that's a future conversation the board should really be thinking about because I don't think it's really sustainable for us to manage that forever.
That's a good pilot program.
All right. Well, thank you. And if we're ready, we can move on. Is there anything for the safety update? It's on there, but I didn't see anything.
We've installed the cameras. I think most of the cameras
Okay.
are installed at Hayes and Moore Court. I think they're working on some switches or something for something, but
Mhm.
yeah, overall it was good. We've had
Great.
most of the residents seem fine with it. I mean, we had one resident that, didn't want them in the building, but other than that, mostly everybody seems good with it. And I think that now that we've got this foundational work done, it'll be easier to do the rest. So it's good.
Great. Okay, so next I'd like to move on to board business. And before we talk about appreciation for staff and community partners, um, can we do the potential motion um, for Brattleboro Housing Authority to form a limited partnership named West Brattleboro Terrace Limited Partnership?
So
May I have,
moved.
may I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um, so appreciation for staff, community partners. I'm more than willing to help out in anything I can do. Like once I get a list, I can, um, you know, maybe form a subcommittee or just start writing letters and passing it around to have everyone sign it and contribute. But I guess I would just need like a meeting to like get a list. Like I would have the list for the staff, but especially the community partners piece. I just want to think about that thoughtfully.
Yeah. I'm wondering, so I think maybe what I'll do is I'll add that to our weekly staff meeting agenda and see if we can compile a list to start with.
Okay.
And then I can bring it to the board. And then maybe also, yeah, I'll start there.
Okay.
And then
That sounds great.
yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay. Anything for BHOI, Brattleboro Housing Opportunities Inc?
No, nothing at this point.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're ready to have a potential motion to enter into executive session to discuss a contract.
Okay.
So moved.
Before we do that, I don't know, AJ, so we're gonna go into executive session, which means we're gonna ask you to leave during that time. You can either sit in the waiting room and then come back at the end of the meeting, or you can leave, whichever you'd prefer. Um,
I would like to wait and be in the waiting room.
no
Just
problem.
me.
Yeah, I'll do that. And Jan will do the same for.
Thank you. So may I have a potential motion to enter into executive session to discuss contract?
So
I
moved.
moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay. Thank you. So may I have a motion to uh exit executive session and go back to our regular meeting?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, great. So, in executive session, the board reviewed a contract, and we have decided a potential motion to we would need a potential motion to put together an RFP for real estate agencies to rent or buy property for BHP offices. Do I have that correct?
Yep.
Okay, great. May I have a potential motion, please?
Motion to move.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. There you have it. Any other comments or questions before we adjourn? Okay. May I have a motion to
I
adjourn?
think AJ has a
Oh,
question.
AJ? Hi, AJ.
Yeah, before you guys adjourn, this is the first of 6 times that our committee and the Board of Commissioners are meeting on the same day. And the next time will be March 23rd. The third time will be April 27th. The fourth time will be July 27th. The fifth time the two committees meet on the same day is September 8th. And the sixth time is October 26th. This is pretty cool that both committees are on the same day.
That's good.
Thank you, AJ. Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for a great meeting.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Yes,
Thank
be
you,
safe out
Christine.
there, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.